IVM.
Hey everybody, welcome to another week on the IVM Podcast Network. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Paytm Money Upfront. Guys, we're heading into week 2 of the lockdown, and I'm sure it's been challenging for all of you, just as it's been for us. We're doing our best to make sure that we maintain our schedules, but beg your indulgence if we slip. In the meantime, if you're looking for more stuff to listen to, might I suggest you go dive into the archives. We've got over 6,000 episodes of content we've created over the last 5 years, and I'm sure there's something in there that you'd love listening to. Anyway, stay safe, and let me get you started with your show.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. This is DJ, your host from London, and I've got with me a very special guest. Someone who's been on the podcast before, someone who's done an IPL episode with us before, someone who's done a first-class cricket episode with us before, a podcaster extraordinaire of IVM's very own Ganatantra podcast, which is the political podcast on the network, and also host of the Cricket Kannadiga podcast. Alok Prasanna Kumar, welcome back to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast.
Thanks DJ. Delighted to be back.
Yeah, so what have you been doing with yourself, man? I mean, obviously we're living in the times of the coronavirus. Cricket fans all over the world are going a little bit stir crazy. As we record, both London and India are under lockdown. So what have you been doing with your time, Alok?
So officially I'm working from home. But unofficially, that has freed up a lot of time in my life.
Like all of us, right? We're also all working from home. Yeah.
But that has also meant that my commute has gotten dramatically cut down. So I have a lot of time on my hands that I don't know what to do with. So I've been endlessly watching YouTube cricket videos. Everybody is like binging the best show and the best film. And I have been watching YouTube cricket videos. And I sort of thought, and we discussed this, I think we should have a show on the 10 best YouTube videos to watch.
Yeah, man, I think it's a great idea. But Alok, tell me first, are you missing Bangalore traffic now after cursing it all this time?
No.
You would rather be locked down than face Bangalore traffic every day?
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, in the sense that it doesn't assault my senses on a daily basis. It doesn't make me want to tear my hair out. And I will totally not miss Bangalore traffic and the attendant pollution and the noise and the congestion.
Awesome. So there you have some pretty strong words about Bangalore traffic. But Alok, of course, you've spoken about the top 10 YouTube videos that every cricket fan must watch and stuff. So let's get into the list, man. You sent me the list yesterday. I actually sat and watched some of them. And I have to say, I was pretty surprised by them. So let's start with the first one on your list, which is Jonty Rhodes' 10 remarkable direct hit runouts. Okay, so first tell us why you picked this one. Because when I think of Jonty Rhodes, I only ever think of the Inzamam runout. Right, like the one that he took 3 stumps out in the 92 World Cup running Inzamam out. Why did you pick the direct hit runouts video?
So a little bit of background, and this is what I sort of realized over the last few days. I think Jonty Rhodes invented modern fielding as we know it. And I think in as much as that there was that moment of brilliance where he ran out Inzamam, but on an everyday basis, on a day-to-day basis, match to match, ball to ball, Jonty Rhodes is just as brilliant. And like these 10 and we see this on a daily basis. You know, we used to see this on a daily basis when we had live cricket, tearing your hair out at all the missed direct hit opportunities. And then you sort of see how Jonty Rhodes does it. Right? I mean, okay, these are just digging 10, not that he didn't miss in his life. I'm sure he missed some in his life. But you sort of see how this guy managed to nail so many of those direct hits, right? And it's a combination of things. It's not just the fact that he picks the ball and gets to hit the stumps. It is from which positions he manages to do it, in what sort of circumstances he manages to do it, how quickly he picks up, gets up, aims and hits this thing. And so many times, I'm sure if it was most of the fielders, even good fielders, the batsman might have made it in, but it was Jonty Rhodes. And I think this video gives a full appreciation of the phenomenal fielder that he was when he sort of came onto the field. And look, I think you and me, we both would have started watching cricket at that time, and like just seeing him on our TV would have blown our minds.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what I noticed about that video, right? There were a lot of underarm direct hits.
Yes, that's the one. Yes, that's true.
Yeah, but now you think about it, it's more kind of sidearm. Like think of Jadeja, right? Jadeja hits Jadeja for me now is the world's best fielder. I think without exception. All positions, maybe not a slip. I'm thinking of, we spoke to Jared Kimber in the last episode, which I missed, unfortunately. But I'm thinking of him dropping Alistair Cook at Southampton in the 2014 series, right? And, so maybe other than that, I think Jadeja is probably the greatest fielder in the world at the moment, 360 all over the park. But he kind of has his own style of hitting the stumps, which is underarm-ish, sidearm-ish. But yeah, I mean, Jonty Rhodes just changed fielding, as you said. I was surprised you didn't pick his catching, actually, because he's taken some incredible catches at that backward point as well. So what is it about a run out that appealed to you? More than a direct hit run out, more than catches, Alok?
I think a direct hit run out is actually much harder than catching. Jonty Rhodes, just not to say that Jonty Rhodes catching isn't best, better than everyone else. There's another great video on YouTube about his catches. But between this one and that, I mean, there's one video of the 5 catches he took, I think in one match, which is still, I think, a record in ODI, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, wait, we're going to go on a tangent now before you carry on. Do you think he took that catch cleanly of Sachin's in the 1997 first final, which was washed out at point?
I think so.
You think he did?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Just for our listeners, just to remember, Sachin was going berserk. He smashes one to Jonty at point.
Yes.
Jonty catches it.
Yes.
And some camera angles will have you believe that he grounds it as he's coming down with the ball. So Alok, again, one more chance. Was it out?
I would think it was out. I think it was out.
Did he have it under control before he grounded it?
That's a tough one, and only Jonty Rhodes can answer that.
Nice. That's a total cop-out anyway. In the final analysis, it made no difference because we replayed the match the next day because of rain and we lost again. But anyway, carry on. With this feeling.
Beyond that. With this feeling, so I think with catching, it's relative of the two skills. I think it is the slightly easier one, but direct hit runouts are much harder. Because sometimes you have only one stump to aim at sometimes, and you have a much lesser time to react. I mean, of course, all the great diving catches you can sort of anticipate and react, but I think it's just far more complex. A run out as a type of dismissal, you have to see which batsman is going where. Whereas with the catch, just keep your eyes on the ball and maybe any other fielder nearby. But with the run out, you have to keep your eyes not just on the ball but also the batsman. Also make those split-second decisions as to whether you underarm it or you throw it sideways. Or, you pass it to the bowler or you pass it to the keeper. And it's just, I think, a much more complex set of decisions we made while making a run out. And with Jonty Rhodes, the fact that he goes for those direct hits, where it is his fault, right? If it misses, it's his fault, going Jonty. Whereas if he just, lobs it to the keeper and the keeper runs, and you're like, okay, close enough, too bad. So I think these sort of tell you the kind of phenomenal fielder that he was. I think it's just so much harder to do those direct hits. So much harder to get it right. And you also notice something else, that most of the time, he underarms some of them, but a lot of times the ball just lands a little bit ahead of the stumps and it usually hits the stump on the bounce. I think too many modern fielders try to get caught up in some aggro mode and try to hurl the ball as fast as possible directly onto the stumps, which is probably not the best thing to do in those circumstances. And Jonty was also thinking cricketer, and he was making those split-second decisions. The thing about that Inzamam run out, the brilliance of it, is that split second where he decides, even if I underarm it, I have only one stump to aim at. It's too risky to let this Inzamam guy play on. I'm going to take that risk. I'm going to run and get him out because I know I'm faster than him on the pitch. So just the kind of brilliance that it takes to pull off these kinds of runouts, I think what people should watch it for.
Awesome. So you've neatly led us on to the next video, which is, of course, the 23 funniest Inzamam runouts. Right? And the first one in that video is the one you've just mentioned, where Jonty Rhodes is flying parallel to the ground with his hands stretched out, that iconic photo from the 92 World Cup, taking all 3 stumps out with himself.
Yeah.
But Alok, I watched this last night, right, after you sent it to me. And dude, it is not only Inzamam's runouts. It is him running his partners out as well.
Exactly. So the reason why I like this video a lot more than others is international cricket. You've played at some fairly high standard, more than me. And to us, like what these guys do in international cricket seems like, how do people do this, right? Inzamam to me, is slightly one of those underrated greats. Only Rohit Sharma is another batsman I've seen have the time to play those kinds of shots. The ease with which he moves, his timing, his placement, it's incredible. I mean, he deserves to be spoken of in the same breath as Lara, Tendulkar, Ponting, Dravid, and the whole lot of them. But every so often, a cricketer of that genius, of that brilliance, will have a failing that will make you and me feel a little better. I can think about, say, Courtney Walsh's batting, right? All-time great bowler, but bats like a complete doofus, right? And it's in a sense that he's trying, but he's failing to do it. You see a Rangana Harris, all-time great bowler, again, left arm spin, genius. But, he could pass for a regular uncle walking his dog on the road. There's not
going to the Darshini in the morning. Going to brisk walk.
Exactly.
Brisk walk mornings with Uncle Hayrat.
Uncle Hayrat. But yeah, and so likewise, I thought Inzamam's running ability, and Inzamam is like the direct opposite of Jonty Rhodes. It's that in as much as his brilliance comes through in batting, when it comes to running, his brain freezes. It's like completely freezes. And it's not even like he's a debutant in a big situation getting overawed. It's the entire stretch of his career. So many times in his career, he's been run out in such hilarious and awful ways that come on, the guy is great in every way, but this is just one of those things to remind you that even these geniuses are human at some level. And you sort of want to see that, okay, you know what, when they fail, it just sort of isn't like a failure at such a high level that you can never even come close to doing it, but a failure that you can say, you know what, I have messed up like that in life.
Also, I mean, you're talking about us getting like fun out of watching Inzamam getting run out, but you watch the reactions on this video of his opponents, right?
Yeah.
And some of them are just so amused by this situation. Because like Inzi will run his partner out. There was one against Australia, I think, in the World Cup. Not the final, the 99 World Cup final, but the group game, where he runs, I think, Ijaz,
right?
No, he runs Ijaz out.
Ijaz out, correct.
He runs Ijaz out, and then he's on the floor a few balls later, trying to crawl back into his crease. And Wasim Akram has gone ahead of him. So he then runs himself out. Right. And I mean, you have to see the Aussies react. You have to see the Indians react to it.
Yes.
Like, I mean, you have to hear the commentators react to it. I don't know what it is about Inzamam. And maybe it has to do with some part of us being, of course, we're Indian. So maybe like the whole India-Pakistan angle to it.
Yeah.
But there is something very amusing about Inzamam being run out.
Yeah.
And if I played with Inzamam, I would just be terrified of running with the man. Because you see the run out. He comes down the track, halfway down the track, and then he says no.
Yeah. So it's the decision making, right? It's like he'll call you for the most suicidal single, and you will be running towards the danger, and you go, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And it's just the worst kind of stuff. And also, but it feels like the universe is playing the cosmic joke on Inzamam. You remember there was that time when he batted the ball. Somebody threw the ball at him. I think it was Harbhajan. He batted it back. He was outside his crease and was given run out. Next time he let the ball through, he was outside his crease and he was still given run out. And there's this one press conference where it's was like, first time I hit the ball and they gave me run out. Second time also I left the ball and they gave me run out. What am I supposed to do?
But first time he was actually not out. I think that was a wrong decision.
Yeah,
right?
That was a wrong decision.
And I think Raina was the one who threw it at him, if I'm not wrong.
Raina was the first of Raina or Harbhajan, one of the two. I'm forgetting the exact.
Yeah, but I think it's as you say, the world and the universe balancing it out. I mean, you've given this guy so much batting talent and you've given him zero running talent.
Yes.
So, I mean, that is the second video. We've already spent 14 minutes, Alok, talking about the first two videos. But, I think the Inzamam one particularly needs a proper view because it's 23 minutes. And
yes,
if you think it can't get any worse, he outdoes himself the next time. So definitely worth a watch.
Easily.
The third one that you sent, Alok, and it's called 10 Stunning In-Swinger Bowls in Cricket Ever. Right? Yeah. So it's basically in-swinging bowling, hitting the stumps. Now, I'm very interested by this. Aesthetically, for me, I find an outswinger, because I can't bowl an outswinger for the life of me. I don't know, maybe it's my action or whatever. Aesthetically, I always find an outswinger like a more beautiful ball. Like Dale Steyn bowling an outswinger, or Jimmy Anderson bowling an outswinger, Zahir Khan curling the ball back into the right-hander. It's more aesthetic because the wrist is different. There's slips waiting for a catch and nick. There's more happening. Why did you go the other way and pick an in-swinger collection of stumps flying everywhere? What is it? Is this a character thing with you, or what is the reason? I'm interested in the psychology of it.
It's honestly the stumps flying everywhere. I think that the sense that the bowler has just basically smashed through the batsman. See, the cricket as a game is fairly weighted towards the batsman, right? And it also has to do a little bit with the history of the game in terms of how the upper class fellows in England were mostly batsmen, and it was the working class who were the bowlers. And always, I think cricket is about how the working class continuously finds ways to outwit the batsman. All the innovations, you find very few batting innovations if you honestly look at it. But all the innovations which have changed cricket have come with bowling. Whether you're talking about overarm bowling, or whether you're talking about learning how to swing the ball and learning how to bowl the googly and various kinds of deliveries, and you could even say ball tampering. There's a little bit of just pushing that edge of that boundary for a game which is tilted against them. I mean, whatever it is. Point being that I find cricket a game where it's always the bowlers are the underdogs. The bowlers are the underdogs trying to find ways to overcome the batsman. And I find the in-swinger, the one that fate, that final defeat of the batsman, right? I agree, the outswinger is beautiful, aesthetic and all of that. But I just like that finality that the stumps played across the field. The bail's completely gone. Due to an in-swinger, it just had no chance against. It was just simply, admit, okay, you know what, I can't. You're the better person. I can't do this. And it requires nobody else getting it right. I think there was this time, I think it was Mohammad Amir when he was bowling. I think when he first burst onto the scene, the fielders dropped so many catches. I think he finally decided, forget it, I'm just going to attack the stumps. All my wickets are going to be LBWs or bowled. I think it was against Australia in one of the tests, if I'm not mistaken. That literally happened. And it is an in-swinger where a batsman is trapped, LBW or bowled, is almost purely the bowler's own effort, just simply outwitting the batsman, not having to depend on anybody else being there to take the catch and not mess up or get everything else right. That really appeals to me about this.
But I've got some pretty heavy objections about this video, though. You know what is missing?
What is missing?
It's missing the Pakistani greats. It's missing Wakar. And it's missing those two balls that Shoaib Akhtar produced from hell in Eden Garden to Sachin and Dravid.
Oh, yes.
I mean...
Well, none of these lists are definitive, by the way. I mean, in terms of the items in each list, I'm not vouching that they are the best, but I'm just sort of going with why I think I like watching this set of...
But so, guys, if you want to see in-swing bowling at its absolute best against two of the best batsmen in the world, those two balls, they hurt. What is it, 25 years later? When is it? 1990s?
Oh, man, yes.
98? 99?
99,
21 years later. I can still remember how Shoaib Akhtar was screaming in a packed Eden Gardens after getting Sachin out first ball, middle stump out of the ground. After taking Rahul Dravid the ball before that, right?
Before that, yes.
Absolutely.
Like I can remember how my stomach fell. Yeah. Right? I actually remember how my stomach fell.
It makes me feel a bit sick even now talking about it, but they're two great in-swinging deliveries. Of course, Irfan Pathan returned the favor a few years later with that hat-trick in the first over. Not quite in-swing because he was left arm, but outswing for a left arm, but lots of stumps flying everywhere, right?
Everywhere.
So, okay, Alok, so we've done 3 videos now. Now, this is one of my favorite videos that you've sent through. This is Kumble and Srinath getting a thrilling win for India in the Titan Cup in 1996. Now, let's put this in context. I'm 11 years old. You're around the same age, of course. India is a good cricket team, not quite the global superpower we are now. We're good at home. However, we've got these two teams, the South Africans and the Australians. So the South Africans were pretty much all conquering back then, right? I mean, they'd been put out of the World Cup by a crazy innings of 160 by Brian Lara in 96. Yeah. And they were looking for revenge, it sounded like. So this is, I think, September, October-ish, right? In that year.
It was October, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And the third team in that team is before they had become great, but they were still World Cup runners-up, was Australia. So India had invited these two crazy teams and kept getting thrashed by them at home. Sachin Tendulkar had taken over the captaincy from Azharuddin in 1996. We'd won the first test match, I think, that he captained in at Delhi. Mungia, I think, made 152 in that test. Was that the one?
That was the 1996 test. That was that very first Border Gavaskar trophy.
Yeah, so that's the one that Sachin captained.
Yeah, Sachin captain. Correct. Yeah, that's right. Yes.
And so in the background of this, we had hope, but then I remember coming home pretty much every weekday where there was a match, and India was getting thrashed by South Africa. No matter what we did, we were getting thrashed by South Africa. So Australia were the big hope, and when we played Australia, I think we were chasing, what was it, 215? How much were we chasing?
212, if I'm not mistaken. 211.
Okay, something like that. And what I remember back then is that you had Kumble and Srinath, right? Our two bowlers, needing 30 of 30 to get. With 2 wickets standing in Bangalore. Decent batting track, hopefully.
Yes.
But back then, it was unknown for our tailenders to do anything, right? I mean, Kumble and Srinath could bat, but I mean, it's like expecting Shami and Bumrah to score the 30 runs for you, man, now. Realistically, it's not going to happen. Although, I think Srinath was used as a pinch hitter also and scored a 50 also once.
So both of them actually had decent first-class records. Actually, I think Kumble had a couple of first-class hundreds by then, and he would go on to score a test 100. Srinath also was reasonably okay because this one match was also, I think, remarkable because of the sheer number of Karnataka players playing in it. We had
Sujit with the white helmet, Sujit Somasundar.
Yes. Sujit Somasundar opening, you had Dravid, you had David Johnson, you had, of course, Kumble, Srinath and Prasad, and it was Sunil Joshi, and it was and almost the entire bowling attack in this match was from the Karnataka team, and that was the second golden generation of Karnataka Ranji Trophy players. But more specifically, I was in the stadium watching this match. I was with my grandfather. I was in the stadium watching this match, and I distinctly remember the arc of Kumble, of Srinath hitting that 6 when we were like, okay, this match is gone.
Steve
Waugh. And when we were like, okay, this match is gone, and then whack, this ball goes like a nice, glorious arc and lands in the stand in front of us. And we were like, hang on, let's sit down and watch the rest of this game until we're done. And oh my God, what a chase we were in for. And it's one of those delightful things that there wasn't that much nervousness in the crowd. Like, actually, the first half of this last wicket partnership this 8-wicket partnership was this is fun, they're making the Aussies run around. And then when it started getting close, people started getting tense, and you sort of see that also in Kumble and Srinath's mothers who are in the stand. They were in the stand next to us. And you can sort of see that reaction in their face also. Like, the first time they're really delighted about this, what's happening. But as it starts getting closer and closer, they start getting nervous until finally Kumble hits the winning runs. So this was like a particularly delightful memory for me. And I think, in a sense, I'm sure India has won closer matches with much bigger margins, much better margins, and all of that. But in a sense, I think this one particular one has a lot of, at least for me, a lot of special memories. And it was one of those thrilling ones. You set the context perfectly for this. It was just that we were getting whipped by Australia and South Africa, and somehow we pulled off this one bit.
Yeah, I actually remember the two ladies sitting in the crowd and just praying for their sons. I think it may have been Kumble's grandmother and his mother, if I'm not wrong.
I think it was. I don't think Srinath's mother was there. And I think it was
and they were just they were basically reliving all the emotions that we were living in our living room. That was the great part. I mean, that is definitely worth a watch. It's one of the great comeback victories that we actually lived through. So that is video number 4, the Kumble Srinath thrilling win in the Titan Cup. Of course, India went on to win that Titan Cup under Sachin's captaincy before heading over to South Africa and getting absolutely thrashed later. So we will come to that in a bit. But speaking of come from behind victories, Alok, right?
Yeah.
The next 2 videos that you've picked, they are come from behind victories. They are comeback stories. They are... I mean, it's what gives sport joy, right?
Yes.
It gives us hope. It tells us what a sporting achievement is. It's why we love the game so much. So let's go to the first one, which happened in 1983.
Yeah.
And you've given us the video number 5 is the full match highlights of the Prudential World Cup in 1983. Now, Alok, why have you picked this particular video for fans as a must-watch?
So I keep having this conversation every few months or so with some cricket fan or the other, which is that why don't we have a solid movie based on a real life cricket match? Surely Bollywood, with all of its talent and all of its technical ability is capable of doing something like this. And then I sort of point to them and say, okay, show me any actual work of fiction that could possibly be better than just the highlights of this game. All right? Just the highlights of this game. And I know they're trying to make a film about this World Cup, and I have grave doubts about the whole exercise. But I just think, in terms of what this represents, like this is a defining moment in Indian cricket. Whether you talk about the context, the comeback from behind, the nature of the opponents, the circumstances, just everything in every way. And this is something. It's one of those rare things I think unites two different generations of cricketers. I mean, of cricket fans. Those of us who were born around this time, a little afterwards, we took to cricket in the 90s. And our parents' generation, for them, this was the greatest match they had ever seen, cricket-wise, greatest match they'd ever seen. And I think, in a sense, this sort of is like this video sort of gives you perspective on why it was such a defining way. You just compare the bowlers we had, you compare the teams that we had. How in the hell? I mean, if we didn't have this video, I think people would have refused to believe that India won the 1983 World Cup. You just look at that West Indies lineup, and they whipped us afterwards, repeatedly. But just on this day, on this occasion, at Lord's, on the World Cup final, India overcame West Indies in like the most remarkable circumstances. And this is proof of the amazingness of sport.
So is this the greatest comeback story in the history of Indian sport, or is it an underdog story in the history of
I think
sport?
It's an underdog story. It's more of an underdog story because India, going into this World Cup, I think India had beaten West Indies once in an ODI and had won one World Cup match before. I think we were about the same level as Sri Lanka. In fact, I would say even 1996 Sri Lanka probably went in with a better chance than India, given the circumstances. And India was almost down for the count, in going into that Zimbabwe match. And nobody, I think, we did beat West Indies on the earlier matches, to be fair. But I don't think anybody gave India anything like a realistic chance of winning the World Cup. And even then, when right into the final as well, when India were all out 183, I don't think anyone gave them a shot at being able to beat the West Indies. When Richards was going, and you can see Richards going on a rampage in this game, like how he's just belting the leather of the ball with impunity until that simply incredible catch by Kapil Dev. It's still even in this grainy image, even in this poor camera work, the way he ran, the way he balanced himself, the way he held what was possibly the most important catch in Indian cricket history is incredible. And we need these as proof to say this actually happened.
Wow, it did actually happen, and as you say, it did change the face of Indian cricket. We spoke to Gulu Ezekiel a few episodes ago, and he said that it changed how he saw Indian cricket. Of course, 71 was when Sunil Gavaskar came in, but 83 was the real change. So,
yes,
anyone who hasn't seen that, it's something that happened before both our lifetimes. And Alok, the next one is something that has actually happened during our lifetimes. It is the video that you have put out is us winning the Chennai Test in 2001.
Yes. Yeah.
I have a couple of questions on this one as well. Now, I mean, obviously the background is the match-fixing issue had just taken place. Azharuddin had been banned. Hansi Cronje had gone down. Ganguly taken over. India didn't have the services of Anil Kumble because he was injured with his shoulder. So things were not looking great for India. Sachin Tendulkar hadn't scored any runs in the first two tests either. But of course, you had that miraculous victory from nowhere following on in Eden Gardens for India to come back and square the series against the mighty Australians 1-1. And then we went to Chennai, which was the scene 2 years ago of that dramatic loss against Pakistan, where Sachin scored 36 with a bad back, and we lost in the fourth innings chasing 272. But we go to Chennai, and my memory of that game is actually Sachin scoring 120 odd, being dropped, I think, by Colin Miller somewhere. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't remember. I think Colin Miller may have been an earlier
No, Colin Miller played in this game.
Yeah?
Colin
He did?
Miller played
Okay.
in this game.
Okay.
Yes, he was in this game.
Yeah, so clearly I haven't watched this video, but I'm just talking from memory. So he gets 120 odd, and then I come back from school. My board exams are going on, so which is why I have very clear memories of these games, because the test at Calcutta, I sat and watched the whole day's play on days 4 and 5 with Lakshman and Dravid scoring those runs and then Harbhajan taking those wickets. And then I'd come back from an exam and I see India's chasing 155 or so to win.
Yeah.
And Sachin is at the crease, so I'm pretty comfortable. We're at 117 or something like that. And Lakshman is batting with him. And then Sachin gets out. And then Lakshman gets out. And then it's anybody's game, right? And the Australians are showing why they are the Australians. But finally, I think it was Dighe and Harbhajan that squeezed.
Harbhajan, yes.
Yes. Was it Dighe batting with him? Samir Dighe?
Yes, it was Dighe.
Yeah, he squeezed.
I have a very specific memory of this also because I was watching this at home and I had just finished my board exams. I think last exam was over, if I remember correctly. And just as this chase is heating up, just as like I've bitten through my nails and everything, the power goes out at home. And this was the days before the inverter and all of that. So we scrapped, I remember it was my radio, my sister and me. This is the last time I ever actually hugged a radio like that. My sister and me were at home and ran upstairs, listened to straining to hear that commentary, this good old fashioned AIR commentary as Harbhajan squeezes out that ball of Magrat and we win. And it's like incredible. Like that emotion you could actually bottle up and sell for $1 billion. It was just amazing because, again, you said the context, come back from behind, win. But there's a reason why I recommended this particular video. More than the Eden Gardens video, the tension in this video, even in the highlights, I know what's happening. I know what is going to be the outcome. But I sat and watched the full video recently and I could still feel myself feeling really uncomfortable going, oh my God, are they going to make this? Oh my God, they're taking wickets. Oh my God, they're taking wickets. Like without intending perhaps, or maybe the intent was there, you've managed to create a thriller out of just a highlights video. And it was just a brilliant seesaw game. I mean, one of the best all-time test series. It wasn't decided, the scoreline 2-1 nowhere does justice to the fact that it could have just as well been 3-0 in favor of Australia. And somehow this young team, Zahir Khan looks like half his size. He's that young. This young team somehow manages to pull back from the edge of nothing. And, Harbhajan Singh doing this amazing feat of getting all those wickets. Tendulkar scoring that century and Lakshman scoring that 281. It's just the most perfect test series when literally the most invincible team on the earth was beaten by these kids at home.
Yeah, and Harbhajan Singh, remember, one of my clear memories from that series is when he comes to pick up his Man of the Series award, he actually gives the interview in Hindi because he doesn't speak any English at all.
English, yeah.
So, or he speaks broken English, and I mean, it was, I mean, he was very young. He was 17, I think, or maybe 19, post action correction and everything as well.
Yes.
So, I mean, great scenes. It was actually a shame it was a 3-match test series, right? I mean, imagine that being a 5-match test series. How
that is true.
Incredible that would have been. But I mean, we live with what we get. And I mean, 2-1 was not a bad result for Indian cricket fans.
Truly.
So go and watch that video. It's about an hour long. And as Alok says, it will be stressful. And I will go and watch it as well. I mean, I may as well relive these memories too.
Of course.
But Alok, so now we've got 4 more videos to go. The 7th one has me a little bit puzzled. It's Western Australia versus Queensland. 1976-1977 Gillette Cup match. What am I looking at?
So this is by far possibly one of the greatest List A matches. It's obviously not a one-day international. It's a List A match. It is a List A match where one side scores about 77 and wins the game. Okay. This is a match featuring Lillee versus Richards. Fastest bowler in the world versus one of the greatest batsmen in the world. This is a match which features one over where Lillee actually terrorizes Richards into getting out. I mean, there is no other way to describe it. You will see this in the highlights. Or maybe let me see a couple of balls. Actually, a separate video just on that one over. Actually, this is one of those rare matches. This is a List A match which has an entire book dedicated to it. I'd recommend listeners buy The Miracle Match by Ian Brayshaw. It's a thrilling book. It's brilliant. It's really well written. Brayshaw is a fantastic writer. And he really captures the essence of this game. And this game has a little bit of historical context. I'll come to it in a minute. But the actual match itself is brilliant. In terms of how Western Australia gets out for 77, right? And you think match is over. That's it. And no team is going to defend 77 in like a one-day international or even a list day. Forget it. But you reckon without Lily. And the colorful stories that are there in the book, apparently Rod Marsh, who's the captain of Western Australia, says, let's make them work for it. And Lily, in his usual style, and I won't swear, of course, and can add the swears in the middle, says, make him work for it, bugger, or let's beat them to it. Okay? So Lily basically goes out there and rips the Queensland batting apart. Queensland, which had Vivian Richards in their lineup, rips them apart, and they actually win this game. It's brilliant to watch because it's a high standard of cricket. It's exciting action, but there's additional context to this. This is the year before the Packer quote-unquote circus, and this was one of the most watched games on Australian television at that time. The finals were also among the most watched games. Remember, this was a time when there wasn't as much cricket on television as there was now, but the viewership for this was insane because people were going, "Oh my God, look at what's happening on the television." And the players made peanuts. The players realized we have done something incredible, remarkable. And people on both sides were sure this is brilliant, and they got paid peanuts. And when they realized that they're being paid peanuts, at some level, something snaps. And this is sort of what Brayshaw's book goes into in much more detail, and I suggest people read it. But this game actually sets the context for what became World Series cricket and changes cricket entirely as we know it. So when you're thinking about player rebellions and revolts, it's not just that one day players just looked at their bank accounts and said, "I need more money," right? There was a certain context to this. You have cricket finally professionalizing and producing action of such gripping quality, of such high caliber, but still being paid like amateurs. That something had to snap. And this is a game that sort of tells you why something snapped. On its own merits, it's brilliant, but watch it for the historical context.
Very interesting. So, definitely going to take a look at that. And question, is this before the emergence of the West Indian quakes?
The West Indian quakes have just emerged there. I think Holding has just played a cup. Roberts was, of course, already there. Roberts was pretty much a great by then. I think Holding has just made his debut a couple of years before. Garner was just had made his entry on the scene. Marshall hadn't played yet. Marshall was just making his debut in West Indies first class cricket.
So they'd actually been demolished in Australia and before.
They've been demolished. Right? Correct. Yes.
And that's where Fire in Babylon starts off from. So
exactly.
This is around that time, I assume.
Around that time, yes. This is around that time. And Richard just sort of slowly getting into the groove of becoming the world's best batsman. But I mean, he was almost there, if not already right there. But this is one of those matches that you should watch to see, how those things played out in history.
Super interesting, man. I had no idea about this match existing.
Right, me neither. But when I read the book and then I watched the highlights of this, my mind was blown.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So 3 more to go. And that is Sachin Tendulkar's 169 Cape Town versus South Africa. Another one I remember very clearly from my younger days as a kid watching Test cricket. Of course, we've spoken about the Titan Cup. And straight after the Titan Cup, we had a tour of South Africa coming up, 3 Test matches and a triangular series, I think, with Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
And this was the second Test match, if I'm not wrong, from that series after we'd lost the first one at Durban, being bowled out for 166. That's not 166, it's 100 in one innings and 66 in the next.
Yes.
So those were pretty kind of depressing days to be an Indian cricket fan. I actually still remember Sachin's middle stump being sent flying by Alan Donald.
Yes.
While he's playing a defensive shot. So that's how bad it was at Durban.
Yeah.
But this then, coming back to this, I remember this being the Sachin Azhar partnership.
Yes,
that's right. To call it Sachin's 169 at Cape Town versus RSA is a little bit misleading, no?
It is, but I wanted to. So actually, this is I put these 2 videos actually next to each other for a reason, and I think Sachin and Lara, it's already their memories are sort of fading for us. I mean, come on, man, are we getting that old? But I sort of want people who may not have seen Sachin bat, and I don't think there are too many people like that yet. But peak Sachin. I think we were slow. This latter half of the 90s was the first peak Sachin. Some of his greatest achievements are during this period, and I think this sort of is like the start of that. What he did, most of this innings is played in that one session post lunch pre-tea. Legend has it that this is the first time they all got to meet Mandela. Mandela was there at Cape Town for this test, and all the players got to meet him. And the way cricket writers put it, Azhar and Tendulkar put on a show for Mandela. And this is like a team which has been just wiped out, a team which is looking like it's not even going to be able to compete in South Africa. Basically takes the bowling attack apart. I think they scored at more than 6 runs and over during that middle session, Tendulkar and Azharuddin. And this is something else, because in as much as we've seen Sachin, he's a great batsman, just how he renders the bowling powerless, right? You're talking about 4 top quality bowlers here, Donald, Pollock, McMillan and Klusner, who'd all go on to do great things. They're just rendered completely useless. There's nothing they can do. Anything they bowl, anywhere they bowl, they are being ripped to shreds. Now it's true, it's the Sachin and the Azharuddin partnership. But we've all seen those videos of Sachin in the Desert Storm innings and Sachin in this Chennai, which is also 100, which I already put up. But just this one inning stands alone, given the context, given the circumstances, given the bowling attack, is just a joy to watch him go at this particular thing. Like, he plays in such an unrestricted manner. There didn't seem to be. I think at some point Sachin also got restricted by the burden of expectation and the fear of it. And this is something to be talked about at a much greater length at some other point. But it's one of those innings where just he's unleashed, he's free. He's like, I am going to rip the bowling apart in the only way that I know. And that is sort of why you sort of need to watch this. In direct contrast, everything was at stake for Brian Lara. In this 153, his captaincy was at stake, his reputation as a top-class batsman was at stake. He produced that brilliant 200 in Jamaica in the series. Again, he's also playing one of the greatest bowling attacks in the world. And I think objectively, this is by far the greatest century scored by any batsman anywhere. I mean, you just take the context, the circumstances, the bowling, who he was left with. He had to watch Walsh, the number 11 batsman, try and fend off Glenn McGrath for 4 balls before he hit the winning runs.
And that's a video in itself that one should watch.
That's a video in itself for the watch.
It's like what Steve Smith grew up watching, to just copy Courtney Walsh leaving the ball. Literally, you think Steve Smith is original? No, Courtney Walsh did it 20 years before he did.
Courtney Walsh did it 20 years ago. And this 153, like with the Chennai test that I plugged earlier, that tension really cuts through this video. 20 years later, you know the outcome. You know what's going to happen. It's just one of those things where your chest cell tightens, as you see Ambrose walk in, and you really, how your heart skips a beat and Ambrose gets out. But Lara bats like, oh my God. Right? To be in that stadium, I think, was like some sort of a transcendental experience. You see one of the greatest batsmen of this generation and probably of all time perform this impossible feat against the best bowling attack in the world, to literally drag his team, kicking and screaming to victory against all possible odds, to take the lead in a series that they had been written off as dead and buried. Incredible. It's just incredible what this particular innings represents. And you just get a sense for the kind of genius that Brian Lara is as a batsman. There's a story that, I forget if it was Healy, I think it was Gilchrist. Gilchrist told the story once, about why you never sledge world-class batsmen. I think when Lara was, I think either it was this series or some other time when they were playing against Brian Lara, and Steve Waugh was the captain, and he made some adjustment to the field, and Lara hisses under his breath, saying, "Ooh, it's a mistake." And Gilchrist say, "Yeah, you think it's a mistake? Let's see you hit there and get a 4. So obviously, next ball, Lara hits it at the exact spot where the fielder was standing, and Steve Waugh had moved him out, right? Just to show he can do it. Next ball, Gilchrist goes up to Steve Waugh, gets him to put 2 fielders who are practically standing 1 arm distance from each other between that spot where the fielder had been moved, because he knows he's played on Lara's ego and he's going to try and hit the ball there. As you would have it, Lara hits the ball there and it goes for 4. The fielders cannot move an inch to stop the ball. He's that kind of genius. Like the guy, when he put his mind to it, literally nothing could stop him. And this is a video which will tell you why Lara is considered that level of achievement.
So we have one Sachin video, which ended in an incredible catch. That's the other thing we should mention about the 169 at Cape Town. Adam Barker running backwards over his head. Right?
Oh, God, yes.
Again, if we think Ben Stokes did it first, Barker was there 20 years before. 22 years earlier. Right? That was actually my first thought when you saw the Ben Stokes catch in the World Cup. I was like, exactly like what Adam Barker did. So Alok, I'm going to ask you the question, which is an unfair question, but if you had to watch, you've given us two videos, one of Sachin on song and the second one of Lara on song.
Yeah.
All other things being equal. Yeah. Right? If you had to watch one of them only on song for a day, which one would it be? And I'll tell you my answer later.
Lara.
And why is that?
Lara on song is it's a bit like, I mean, and I sort of have to reach out to music to draw the metaphor for it. I think Lara is a rock song. Lara is a Led Zeppelin rock song that, has all these wonderful variations, incredibly inventive, incredibly amazing. It's a performance in and of itself, and I would definitely go for that. Tendulkar is a great piece of classical music. Classical music will always be listening, and what's classical music is a whole debate about it. I'm not going to that. But when I say classical music, I'm thinking of the greatest works of either the Persian Nazms or Beethoven or Indian classical music. They will always be evergreen. They will always be fresh. They will always be works of brilliance. But in a way, they will not have that pick you up and throw you into the wall kind of intensity and brilliance of a Led Zeppelin metal song. So I'd say on song, Brian Lara over Tendulkar for me.
I can't disagree with that. I mean, whenever I've thought about it, you said you've given it like a musical analogy. For me, it's more like, it's Lara with that high backlift, jumping up, just the flourish of the bat, him batting against spinners. I mean, using his feet, just attack. There was no backward step ever from Lara. I can't actually, maybe when he wasn't interested, maybe where there's something going on in his mind, but all other things being equal, and I hate to say this, we're an Indian cricket podcast, we've grown up watching Sachin, but Sachin is a ruthlessly efficient machine.
Yes.
Right? And he was born and put on this planet for one reason, to score runs, and pretty much nothing else. Lara, on the other hand, there's a genius to him, but there's a humanity to him, which Sachin lacks a little bit. Sachin's efficiency quotient is so high. He moves into kind of the machine realm.
Yeah.
Whereas with Lara, you can see the emotions. You can see his eyes getting wider. You can see the adrenaline pumping. You can see he's hit 1 4, he wants to hit another one.
Yes.
Right? He wants to dominate the bowling.
Yes.
And that, I think, I mean, I've said this since I was a kid, and I hate it because, I mean, Sachin is the best thing to ever happen to us Indian cricket fans. It's given us the ability to scream from the rooftops on social media, which we haven't stopped since Kohli's come as well. So that's an ongoing saga. But I think for me, Lara, and just the incredible single-handed, because remember, Lara didn't have help at all.
No.
By the end of it, he had nobody. Sachin actually grew into his career having people like Lakshman Dravid, Ganguly, Sehwag, Gambhir, Kohli for a little while to bat around him as well. Whereas Lara just had Jimmy Adams and Carl Hooper from what I can remember.
Yeah, and a little bit of Chasirna and Chandrapal.
Yeah, a little bit of Chandrapal as well. So, very interesting. So that's the Lara 153. Also, the 200 he scored just before that, batting a whole day with Jimmy Adams. That's worth a watch as well. Alok, now coming to the last one. I mean, we're nearly up to 50 minutes of the podcast. So we're coming to the last video. And this is very interesting. The video is titled, Why Tim Locastro Should Be Your Favorite Weird Player.
Yeah.
And it's a baseball video.
Yes.
What is this about now? Why is this in a list of every video every cricket fan must watch?
Okay, I'll get to it. The first thing is what this video is about. The video is by this channel called Baseball Bits, and they do these fantastic videos on famous games, players, and all of that. And they talk about this guy. When you first look at his stats, you're wondering why is he even in a major league team, right? He just doesn't seem to belong here. Like, if I have to sort of compare it with cricket, it's like a guy who's averaging about 30 in ODIs, but seems to be playing year after year after year after year after year for his team, and they're like never able to figure out what the hell is he doing. He's scoring like 30 at number 6 and doesn't seem to be like really making a difference. What is going on? But they get deeper into the stats. They get deeper into the stats to figure out what is it that is making him so valuable for his team. And they find that this guy, those of you who sort of have some familiarity with baseball will know that in baseball, runners can steal. So if you're on first base, like you can actually start running while the pitch is delivered and reach the other end, to the next base, and it counts as a steal, even though the batter hasn't hit the ball. And they found that Tim Locastro is the fastest runner in baseball. And because baseball scores much fewer runs than cricket, value of a run is much, much higher. So somebody who can steal these bases for you, who is actually way, way more valuable, even if he doesn't hit them himself, right? Even if he's not giving you that many hits or home runs and stuff like that, he's actually way more valuable in what he's able to do just by the fact he's one of the fastest runners. But here's one of the most interesting facts. The part of this video that it really comes down to is that those of you familiar with baseball may know that a batsman walks if he is hit by a ball. Tim Locastro actively tries to get hit by a ball. Okay, he actively positions himself.
It's like 100 miles an hour, which is quite hard as well.
Yeah, right. Yes, like he actually ensures that when he gets hit, when he gets hit, of course, he has to go to the first base, and from there he can steal more bases. He actually puts himself in the line of the ball, and not all baseball.
Why not use his bat?
You can get struck out if you miss. You can get struck out, but if it hit your body is a much bigger target.
And does he have padding, or is it?
Yeah,
just...
of course he has padding. Okay. So he uses an elbow guard, which is of course necessary. But he takes that hit so that he can go to first base and do these things. And it's brilliant. It's sort of to two things it tells me. One is that this is what a stats revolution looks like, right? You don't just go by really blunt numbers to make sense of why a player is good or bad. And to me, that is where, to go back to the very first video that we saw, cricket really fails. Cricket stats really fails because we just look at Jonty Rhodes' batting average. We have a rough number of catches and maybe runouts. We just don't understand the value he brought to that South African team just through his fielding. And we haven't found a way to put a number on that value. We still haven't found, there are some rough measures being probably created in light of IPL and other such leagues, but the mainstream international cricket still hasn't found a solid way to value fielding, to value some of the less valued skills in cricket, like a keeper. How many, what is the actual value of a keeper? Like, the stupid debate that we keep having, Saha versus Punt. What is Saha's actual value? Why are we just comparing their batting averages or catches and things like that? What is it that Saha brings to the team as a wicket keeper is not a value that we've been able to put a number to. And that is why this futile debate keeps going on. But two, and a slightly meta complaint, is that no matter how many videos of cricket that I have trawled through, one genre of cricket videos missing is the good video essay. This is something that has sort of come about on YouTube, and it's usually a video of about 10 to 15 minutes long, and it involves somebody who's fairly knowledgeable talking about the subject matter with graphics and videos and pictures, and it's very high production quality. Unfortunately, we just don't have any of that for cricket. If you just look back on the 9 videos I spoke about, they're all mostly highlights or collection of clips. And they're great to watch. They're extremely time pass. But in terms of how we as cricket fans appreciate the game, I think there is a huge scope for like the solid video essay of, analysts bringing in their understanding of the game into helping us make sense of why this, say, West Australia versus Queensland was so important, of players talking about the history. There are some very good documentaries, but those are not documentaries made for YouTube. They're like 40, 45-minute documentaries. I'm in the middle of watching one about Malcolm Marshall. But that 10-minute video, which leaves you thinking, oh, wow, I never thought about the game in this way. And this is incredible what they're talking about. That is something missing in cricket. And I think we've got great podcasts. I'm also going to talk about you. But in terms of this video essay and how we cricket fans appreciate the game, I think this is one huge area lacking on YouTube. And if anybody knows of good ones, please share it with me, because no matter how much I have searched, I have not been able to come across any quality video essays which break down the game, break down a performance, and present it to us in a new light that makes us go, oh wow, that was really cool.
Alok, we spoke to Jared Kimber recently, and he said that ESPN are desperately looking for video content. So you need to be writing to Mr. Samit Bal. And who knows, man? You just got to do it yourself. But you know what? While he was speaking of these steals and all of this stuff, right? Kimber's actually written an article recently about running on the last ball of a T20. And that's exactly the kind of thing, right? Or not even a T20 of any game.
Yes.
And the example that he gives is one of the starkest examples. He starts off with this example. That's why it catches your attention, which is why he's a great writer. That's besides the point. The World Cup final. CWC 19.
Yes.
Last ball of New Zealand's innings.
Yeah.
Santner gets bowled a bouncer. And he's kind of so shocked he doesn't run. And what a difference that would have made in the final analysis.
What a difference that made, yes.
And he has nothing to lose.
Yes.
If he completes the run. They didn't even attempt it. They just kind of he just shrugged at it and moved on.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, there is so much. And he said as well, there's so much to be done in cricket. I mean, you say you've just spotted the video essay, right? There's so much to be done in cricket. And anyone who's listening to this, if you've got a skill with the video and you want to talk about cricket, write into Cricinfo, man. Who knows?
Truly.
Or start your own Cricinfo. Start your own thing.
Yes.
But yeah. So Alok, it has been absolutely fantastic speaking to you again. We had some really great memories there, man. I mean, I'm going to go back and watch some of these videos.
You should.
We'll put all the links in the show notes for anybody who's getting a little bit bored during these times. But yeah, thanks again for making the time, man. I know it's a little bit boring with no live cricket on at the moment, but we are doing our best. And I'm sure we'll have cricket back. And of course, Bangalore traffic will be back on track as well. So you've got that to look forward to.
Yes, why not?
Awesome, Alok. Thanks again, man. And speak to you soon.
Pleasure.
Take care.
My pleasure. Speak to you soon. Take care, DJ. Bye.
Thank you, buddy.
रिश्ते में तो हम तुम्हारे पॉडकास्ट लगते हैं. नाम है फुटबॉल शुटबॉल.
Presenting Football Should Ball, a show about three friends discussing our favorite game over a beer. Sometimes three, maybe even five. Hi, I'm Shiva, and with me are my two sidekicks, Gaurav Sapre and Karthika here.
Sidekick? You mean like Batman's Robin or Van Persie Robin?
No, I mean like Alexis Sanchez, but with a little more skill than just playing the piano.
Just shows how the best players at Arsenal are mere bench warmers at United.
Oh, thank you, Ayer. But you're a Fulham supporter, so whenever you say anything to support me, I question my beliefs.
Just like how Griezmann would say, एक बार मैंने जो decision ले लिया, तो मैं अपने आप की भी नहीं सुनता.
Banter aside, we will talk match reports, transfer rumors, top controversies, fantasy football picks, and so much more. So grab a beer and tune in to Football Should Ball every Wednesday on the IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Look, up in the internet. It's a meme. No, it's a cat video. No, it's the Geek Fruit Podcast.
That's right. We interrupt this riveting broadcast to tell you about our show, The Geek Fruit Podcast, where Tejas, Dinkar, and I, Jishnu, talk about everything in pop culture, including DC, Marvel, Star Wars, Netflix, and everything in between.
You know how your friends hate it when you ramble about some nerdy crap and you just want somebody to listen to you? Well, sorry, there's nothing we can do about that, but come listen to us ramble and it'll almost be like the real thing. Kind of.
Listen to new episodes of the Geek Fruit Podcast every Monday and the Geek Fruit Bulletin every Thursday on iTunes, Google Podcasts, the IVM app, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Happy listening, you nerds.